I have an 11 by 14 stretched canvas pre-primed, and then I also added an additional layer of acrylic gesso to my canvas, and I allowed it to dry. It takes usually about an hour to dry, but I did it the night before just to make sure it's completely dry. I'm going to take a little cadmium yellow and put it on my palette here, and I actually do want a good amount of it. And I spread it across because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this with some white over here because I want it lighter. But I also want to mix a little brown to get a little more like a golden look. So I'm going to put a little bit brown on this side. So now I want to start mixing these together. So I'm going to take my palette knife. So I'm going to mix this all up together right now. And I've got, it's kind of a yellow here. I'm going to just add a tiny bit of brown. You want to slowly add your dark color to the light color. You never want to add the light to the dark, because it's going to take a lot more paint to get the dark light versus the light dark. Slowly add the dark to the light to get that color. I want kind of a gold color here. So I've spent some time mixing this up. I added a little more white, and as you can see, I have kind of a light gold here and then a darker gold here. And I'm just going to pick this up with my palette knife and just spread it right in this corner of my canvas. And then I'm also going to take, let me get more of that, the rest of that light color here, and just spread it right here. And then I'm going to take this darker one and put it closer to the middle of the canvas. Like that. I'm going to wipe my palette knife first. I tend to forget to do that. So I'll wipe that off. And then I'm going to take, I have a little bronze, dark bronze here. It's got metallic in it. And I'm just going to, oops, drop some dry pieces of paint here. Just put a little bit of that bronze and let it drip just along here, not too much. You can always add more. And then I'm also going to just put some white right in this corner here. I've got my 2-inch flat brush, and I'm just going to dip it in a cup of water. This is regular tap water, and then I'm going to squeeze it out to get that water out. I just want it damp. I don't want it too wet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the light to the dark. So I'm just going to start mixing that in just like this. And I want to get these corners as I'm doing this, get the edges, and I want to work from the corner out this way. Continue to get the edges here, and kind of just slowly keep working into that dark bronze. And you see I'm kind of mixing it, but not mixing it all over, so it's creating that gradient. It's going from the dark to the light, but I'm allowing some of it to mix. And you can even just run your paintbrush across like this. We want to have it not perfectly straight. Can create a little texture here just by, I'm not even applying any pressure at all. I'm just kind of letting my paintbrush drag across the canvas here, and I'm just slowly waving it. Maybe get a little of that dark into the light here, and a little of that light into the dark. Just by touching the light there and bringing a little of it over here, creates a slightly different effect. And then touching that dark and bringing it over here. Now we're going to start mixing the paints for the water. So I'm going to allow this to dry a little bit over here. I'm probably going to use an aqua color, a blue color, a green color, and I've also got this metallic peacock pearl. It's really nice to add one metallic in there. It gives it a different look. So what you want to do is first create your medium that's going to make these paints more fluid, and you can go buy a medium that's going to help your paint, make your paint more fluid. But here I'm just going to use school glue. This is just regular school glue. So I want to add that in. I'm going to use all of this because I want to just make sure that I have enough paint. Probably going to make a little too much. And this is probably half this glue. So this is 4 fluid ounces. So I'm using about maybe a little over 2. So I'm going to add, I've got a little regular tap water in this cup here, and I'm just going to add it to this very slowly. I don't want too much. I'm just barely topping it off with some water here. I think I maybe added not even maybe a fourth, maybe a little less, maybe a fifth of water in there. And I'm just going to use something to mix it. I have these popsicle sticks. They're super inexpensive. And you can just keep reusing them over and over again if you allow the paint to dry. But really, you can use anything to mix your paint. You can look for a plastic fork or knife, and just, you want to mix the water really well with the glue. You want it thoroughly mixed. I'm going to get a few more cups here. I may actually just use the metallic instead of this aqua because the color is so close. I think I'm just going to use the metallic. I'm going to use a green and blue, and I'm going to use a white. So I've got 4 colors here. I want 3 cups because I can use this one. And I want to equally distribute this, except I'm going to leave a little extra in this cup. I want a little extra white in one of the cups. So I'm just going to pour some into each cup. I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put white in here, and I'm going to put a decent amount. I'm going to put the next one where I want the most paint is this peacock pearl. So I am going to put a good amount in there as well. Oh no, and I'm almost out of this. So I might just use the rest of this paint up. And I kind of want equal parts of this blue and green. Now I got a little green in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use, wow, I'm really starting to run out of a lot of my paints. Been painting so much. Okay, so blue in there and green in here. You do have to use different mixing sticks for this, so I'll use white for this. Get another one here and start mixing. Scrape it off the sides of the wall. And so you want to do this for all your paints. And you want to just get to the color you want. So if it's a little too light, you want to add more paint to it. If it's too thick, it should still be like that melted ice cream consistency. If it's too thick, you can add more glue or a tad bit, a pinch of water to it. And this one looks a little thick. Yeah, see, when I pick it up, it's okay. It's not too bad. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water to this one. See, because when I pick it up it sits on my knife a little bit. I want it just a tiny bit, a little more watery to that. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of glue and water to this. So I'm just going to use up the rest of this glue. Maybe still coming out. I might add a little of it, the rest of that, to the white. And then just a tiny little bit of water. Don't want a lot. So I've mixed these very thoroughly, and what I want to do next is I want to have a few cells in my final project piece. And there's a lot of things you can also add. I've seen people add WD-40. I have this hair gel, or this glossing hair polisher. You can also use rubbing alcohol. I've got rubbing alcohol here. I'm going to put a little of this hair gel, and I'm only going to put like 1 or 2 drops in each of these. Don't need a whole lot. So I've got the hair gel mixed in, and I want to set these aside and make some space. So now I'm going to add a little more texture to my sand. It's probably a little more dry now, which is what I want. I'm going to take some gold and just apply it to my palette here. And now I've got a dry brush, no water at all. And I want to just get a little of that gold. And I'm just going to tap some areas here on my canvas. And after I've tapped there, I'm going to re-tap it. Make some sand texture here. And I'm not going to do this everywhere. I'm just going to do this in a few areas. But what I want to do is create a little more texture in this painting. You can kind of concentrate in a few areas here. And you want to even get right off the edges here. You never know what part of your painting is going to be viewable. So sometimes you can kind of see these edges. So you want to allow it to go right off the edge there. So next we want to start pouring, and you want to get something that is going to catch your paint. And using this flat protection sheet may cover your table, but if you use a lot of paint, it could drip right off your table. So you want kind of something that's kind of curved at the edges that's going to keep that paint in. I've been reusing this foil baking pan, and it works great because I can use it over and over again, and it barely fits. You want to make sure it is larger than your canvas so it does pick up, catch all your paint. And I had to actually stretch the corners here a little bit to make sure it was going to fit. You don't want your painting to be resting on the bottom, so you want to use something to prop it up. I typically just use these cups, and you don't have to go out and buy cups. There's a lot of things you can use. I've got yogurt cups here. I mean, pretty much anything. Just clean it out, and what you want to do is prop up your painting. So I mainly want this area to make sure, I want to make sure this area is propped up, and you want to prop it up by the wood. You don't want to prop it up by your canvas. Notice that there, you could dent your canvas there. So you want to make sure it's propped up by the wood. So you want to make sure that your canvas is pretty flat and evenly spaced right here. I see that this corner seems to be going down a little bit, and I don't want that because when I pour the paint, I don't want it going this way. So I almost want to prop up this side just a little more. Make sure the paint is going to either lay flat or go this way a little bit. So I'm going to take this blue paint and I'm just going to put it near this corner here. I'm going to pour it right on this corner here, and maybe a few drops in the middle. That I've got some of that left. Now I want to take the green as well and also just pour a little of that right onto the canvas. Then I want to take my peacock and pour that a little bit closer to the middle. Pour a good amount there. And maybe just a little bit on that side. And then I'm going to also pour a little white next to that peacock pearl. Maybe get a couple drops in there. Oops, got a little paint over there, and that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to just take our palette knife and just move that this way a little bit. We can even take a paper towel and just wipe that just a little bit, blend it right in to the paint. So I've got my paint going, poured here, and at this time, if you don't want it to get your hands dirty, you should put on some gloves. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. So I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to start tilting it back and forth, letting the paint mix and pour right off of my canvas, and it's going to pour into my pan here. And once I want it to go this way a little bit and touch the sand. Let it go this way a little bit. Now what I want to do is I want to just take a little blue and drip it right in here. I want to get more blue in this area. There's not enough, I think. What I've done is I've cut out this piece of cardboard. I was really looking for an old plastic card, like an old credit card. And that's kind of nice because you can reuse that over and over again, but I couldn't find an old credit card. So I'm just going to use this. You want something with an even straight edge. And I'm just going to run that lightly across, just like this. And what's great about the plastic card is you can wipe this right off, but here when you wipe it off, it's not going to fully take all the paint, but that's okay. Let's wipe it off and look at those cool cells that were created from that hair gel. So I'm going to keep doing that, and you don't want to do too much. You want to allow the paint to mix a little bit, but not to the point where it's going to muddy the paint, where the paint is going to be too mixed together. What I can do is I can use the smaller end now and just get this edge right here. Make sure it's touching into the sand. And I kind of want some darker blue and green here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a hint of black, just a tiny bit of black now to this paint. And you want to add very, very little. And maybe what we should do is put the paint on this mixing stick here. So I've got a little black paint on this mixing stick. I'm going to put some of that on my green stick to break it up. And I'm going to put a tiny bit, half of that black in the green and half of the black in the blue. And now I'm going to mix that black in, and I'm just going to swirl it a little bit. We don't have to mix a lot here. We just want it a little bit darker, and I'm going to get this corner just right here with that black and blue. I could get it even darker than that. I've got some black in my green too. Mix it up just a little bit and put some of that right on this corner as well. And get my cardboard here and just push this through a little bit. Try to let it fall and touch the edges, because you do want the edges of your canvas fully covered as well. And now I want to create some splashes along here too. I'm going to get this corner, because I realize there's no paint right in here in this corner. Make sure it's sitting over my pan. And just watch this. I'm just gonna use this stick and let it kind of drip and even touch the sand here. I'm gonna run my cardboard against that a little bit too. And I'm going to get a fan brush, and you can actually use, another brush. You just want a medium-sized brush. A flat brush would also work. And I'm gonna get a little water on it. So I'm just gonna dip it in this water. And I don't want it, just like how I'm gonna squeeze it out a little bit and just dry it off. I don't want it sopping wet, but I want a little water in it. And I'm going to dip it right into this white. And I'm going to apply it near the sand. But what I want to do is I want to twist the brush as I'm moving. So I'm going to go from big here, and then notice I'm going to go small, back to big. Get on the sand just a little bit. Do that here too. I want to touch the sand just a little bit here. So I noticed that some of the cells got lost in here. So I got another small piece of cardboard, and I just want to run that across again. See if I can get some of those cells to show up again, and I see just a few showing up here, which is nice. Let's do that a little bit more. Might just move the paint around here a little bit. Maybe create a couple splash-like. Make it look like it's splashing. And at this point, if you're pretty happy with it, we're done. You can just keep adding some little areas here, just to make it exactly how you like it. You will maybe want to add a little more blue on these edges or sides. Just keep adjusting it as you like until you're happy with your painting. And now you want to allow it to dry. So it's probably going to take at least a day to dry. I would allow it at least 24 hours. So as you can see that it's still dripping right here. It's going to continue to drip for a while. So you want to come back every so often and just scrape the bottom edge of your painting, because you don't want it drying like that. And you want to just do that a few times. It's been 3 days and my painting is fully dry. And what I'm doing next is I'm kind of just adding my own little decorations to this painting. You really can add whatever you want. I've got a few shells and stones here, and I've arranged them on my canvas to kind of get a good composition. You kind of want to have them laying around, not perfectly, just all over the place, so it looks a little more natural. But I've come up with a nice arrangement here. I'm happy with it. So now I'm going to take my hot glue gun, and you can use any really fast drying glue. And I even have this little pearl, and I'm going to glue that into this shell right here, and I'm going to glue everything onto the canvas. And it might be easier to actually put the glue right on the shell so you don't burn yourself. So I'll put a tiny bit of glue right here. And then I will take my bead and make sure that the holes of the bead are not showing. And just place that into the glue. Just press down on it. So what you can do is you can apply glue back here, a little back here, as well as on the actual canvas. So you want to not apply it everywhere, but just the part that's sticking out. And you can even put a little on your canvas here, but don't put too much. You don't want to burn your canvas. Then I will also put a little glue on this here, on the bottom. I've got some glue there, and I'm just going to place this one right on the canvas. So this one, because it's facing down, you want to put a little glue along the edges here. Just place that down. I'm done gluing my shells and rocks to my painting. The last thing I might consider is applying a layer of resin or polyacrylic to give this painting a high shine or glossy layer. We are done, you guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it.